Hi everyone! In this video we'll be taking a look at how I use RME's TotalMix for routing and monitor control in my Atmos system. If you're not familiar with TotalMix, it can be a little intimidating at first. In this case, I'm using a Digiface USB. It has a lot of channels, but I normally keep them hidden so that it's not too cluttered. At the top we have the hardware inputs on the interface. In this case you can see my microphone that's coming in on channel 2. If I'm recording or monitoring something through my Atmos decoder, then it shows up on these input tracks. At the bottom we have the hardware outputs. On the right is the output for my left and right speakers. This is only separated because of the way that the RME ARC USB remote control works. And so in order to be able to control the output level, it has to be set as a main output here, which then separates it out onto the right here. The rest of the outputs go to the other speakers in my Atmos system, and the last one goes out to my ADI2, which I use for headphones. The phone out, which is the built-in headphone out on the interface, I only use when recording and someone else in the room needs headphones. The middle row is where the output from software ends up. If I play anything in Chrome or Spotify, it shows up on the output 1 and 2 here. One of the great things about TotalMix is that every output can have its own mix. Right now, going out to my left and right speakers, you can see is this ADAT 1.2 and ADAT 9.10, each at a different level. If I select here the output for my center channel and LFE, you can see that we have a different mix going to it. We moved over in each channel. If I select each other output, you can see that they all have their own different mix of the software outputs. If, for example, I wanted to monitor the microphone input on my headphones, I could just turn them up, and now you can see that they're going out to my headphones. Going back to the left and right speaker, you can see that we have two buses going to that. The first one is the normal output from Windows, so any audio out of Chrome or Spotify or any other program. And the second one is what I use for the DAWs that I work in. So Nuendo outputs its left and right signal on ADAT 9 and 10. The reason I do this is so that they can be at two separate levels. Mastered content is generally a lot louder than unmastered content, so say I'm mixing something in Nuendo and I want to listen to a song in Spotify, if I just play that back at the same level, it would be way louder than what I'm working on in Nuendo. My default is to have a 12 dB difference, which you can see here. I normally have Windows set to use a 7.1 output, so if I listen to any WAV files that are surround or play anything in Netflix, it'll play out in surround, and that's why I use the first 4 outputs for Windows. You can see, for example, on the center channel, this would be the center channel and LFE from the Windows output, and this would be the center channel and LFE out of Nuendo. And they both feed to ADAT 3.4, which is my center and LFE outputs. Looking at the right, we have the ability to store presets, which RME calls snapshots. If we change anything, like the level of the outputs, and then go back and click the first one, which I normally use, you can see everything goes back up to 0. Whenever I sit down and start working, I'll go back to that main snapshot. I can use the buttons on the remote control to switch between different snapshots. You can see that on the second snapshot, basically the only difference is that now the outputs from Windows are set up to 0 and match the level of my DAW outputs. This is for if I'm watching something, say, in Netflix and want the full calibrated theatrical level. You might notice that the faders on the outputs are red. This is due to the fader group here. By grouping the faders, they all move together. This lets me control the output level for the entire Atmos system from the ARC USB remote. As I turn the encoder on the remote, you can see the level changing. When mastering, I found a convenient way to use TotalMix to A/B with any reference material. If I show all tracks, you'll notice that we have a muted track here and additional phones track here on the bottom with the output. This phones output is essentially just a dummy channel. The ARC USB remote only allows you to use the encoder to control the level of tracks that are set here in this separate output section. You can see that I have this output linked to the ADAT2324 via another fader group. In this case, it's blue. On my remote, I have a button which changes the function of the encoder from controlling the output level to controlling the level of the phone's bus. You can see that now we're changing the output of that ADAT2324 software output. I then have a separate button which allows me to solo that track. I should point out that the solo does override the mute. By sending any ref material out to the ADAT2324 output, I can essentially level match it by using the encoder and solo to AB between that and the material I'm working on. This allows me to use the remote control as a monitor controller for my full Atmos system, including different calibration levels, as well as for ABing with any ref material and level matching that material. I hope this video helps you get a sense of the endless possibilities with TotalMix and some of the ways that I use it in my setup. Feel free to send any questions.